Hello guys, my name is Lucas and welcome. On the last video we learned how to keep images in our device so that we only have to download them once. Today we're going to learn how to manage the versions of those images. So if we update one of those images in our server, our program will know how to update the corresponding images. Let's go. So I created a small to-do list here and it's pretty simple. First, we are going to be using JSON to keep track of what version is each image at. So we're going to create a version dictionary. Then we're going to add the versions on our database. So we have to have a column for our versions and update them every time we update an image. Then we are going to get the version in our item info. That's through the PHP script that we have. Then we're going to have a function to save the new version and also compare if the current version is the version we have already. And finally, we are going to check the version and decide if we should download it or load it from our device. So to use JSON, I like using simple JSON. So let's type here using simple JSON. And here we're going to create a JSON object. And I'm going to call it version JSON. And so here we're going to store the version of each item. And that's going to happen also when we save images, all these from the last episode. If you haven't watched that episode, please go watch it now. We're going to keep digging into these later, but let's first of all add the version in the database. So we're going to go to localhost here. And in our PHP by admin, we go to the items table and you see we have ID, name, description, price, image. That was supposed to be a URL if you're using specific URLs for each image. But now we want to add a new column. So let's go to structure and we're going to do add one columns after image. And let's click go. So this will allow us to create a column. I'm going to call this something like img version. So img ver. So image version is going to be type int. I think with a length of 10 we have more than enough versions, and that's it. So image version type is an integer and we have a value, a length of 10. Let's save this. And all right, now if we go again to the table, we will see that all of our images are at version 0. So whenever one of our developers uploads a new image, like for example, one of our artists upload a new image to the directory holding our images, they should also make sure to update the version here. Now we could write scripts so that that happens automatically. It would be something like on image update, then find the ID and update the image version, like do something like ++, so +1 on the version and update that on the database. But we're not going to be doing that today. We could definitely do it sometime, but that's a topic for another video. For now, we're going to just do it manually. All right, so we have our image version. Now we need to get it in our item info. And if we go to Visual Studio Code right now, if we go to get item, here our SQL selects the name, the description, and the price from items where the ID is the ID of the item. So we simply want to get one more piece of information here, which is img ver, image version. And that is going to automatically add it to the JSON because remember, we're encoding all that into a JSON. So before we do anything, if we log in and get the information of our items, so let's do test user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You will see that now here we also have the name, the description, the price, and also we have image version this time. So that is the piece of info that we want. So let's go back to Visual Studio. All right, we have the version in our database. Now we need to get the version in our item info. So we did that on the PHP script, but also in Item Manager, we have to get that information. All right, so here in Item Manager, we try to get the information from our web class, and we will store it here in this JSON object that we have. And this part of our code actually waits until we get that information. So we can confidently do it here, and we know that we're going to get that information. So instantiate game object, yada yada yada, fill the information, yada yada yada, here. This is what we did on the previous episode, but today this is what we want to do. We want to get the image version and send it to the image manager so that the image manager can decide what is going to happen. This again is pretty simple. We're going to make an integer, and I'm going to call it image version, and it's going to be equals to the JSON that we had up there. So if I'm not wrong, it's called item info JSON. So item info JSON image version, and this should be as int. All right, so we get the integer there. All right, we have two ways of doing this. We could have two conditions here. So if the byte's length is equal 0, or if the image version is not up to date, we could have those two. Or the other thing we could do is in the load image function, we could have a second parameter, which is the image version. And if we do not have that version, then we return also an empty byte array, which is going to trigger this that will download it from the web. So I think I'm going to go with the second method. So let's go to load image, and we also need to have a version. So it's just going to be an integer, and I'm going to call it again image version. Let me type a quick summary here. Returns empty if image is not found or if not up to date. Here we have to do something else as well. So to do compare version. All right. So if we go back to item manager, we have to pass in the image version here. So image version. All right. So this is done for now. So nothing else we have to do here. And in image manager, we have to do the compare method. So let's go back here. Get version in our item info PHP. That's done. Save and compare version. All right. So first we need to be able to create the version JSON properly. Actually, we never did this properly. We just created a variable called version JSON. But now we want to actually make it every time we save an image. All right. So save image should also have a version parameter because we want to save that image with a version. So let's add an integer here. Again, image version. We call it the same as we have been calling it all over the place. And here in item manager, we are going to pass that image version there, comma, image version. All right, now we also need to save that image version into our JSON file. So let's create a new function. I'm gonna create it down here. By the way, I use this, like usually when I code, I use this size of my text, but now because I'm doing the tutorial, it needs to be big so that you guys can read if you're like watching on your phones or anything. And that really, I get lost a lot because of that. So I'm sorry if I'm like going up and down all the time. All right, we're going to do void update version JSON, string name and int version. And first of all, we're going to check if the name exists on the, I don't even think we have to do that. Actually, we can simply do it like this. So we get our version JSON, take the name, which is our key for the value, and then we set it equal to the version. All right. So of course, we should have all kind of checkings, like are we setting it to a previous version? Is that allowed in your system? Like, can you go back a version? Or can you only go forward? Or like all those things you have to decide. But on its most simple way, this is all what we have to do. Just update the version. And now here in save image, up here, we do update version JSON, and we're going to pass in the name and the image version. Now we need another function, and that is here. So we did save version, and compare version. Now we have to do compare version. So down here we are going to have a Boolean type function, and I'm going to call this something like is image up to date. It's a pretty weird name, but anyways, the important thing is that you understand what this does. And we are going to need two parameters here, a name and the version we are comparing to. So that's int version. We want to return version JSON name. So we're getting the version of this image as int. And we're going to check if it's greater or equals to the version we're comparing against. For some cases, this really depends on your design, but it could be like this as well. You could compare if it's equal. So you don't care if you have a previous version or a new version, you're going to update it as long as it doesn't match the current version. The current version in your device doesn't match the version on our database. All right, we can go into more detail later on in another video, but again, depending on your design, this could be something like greater or equals to, or just equals to. And before actually we can return this, we have to do if version JSON name is not null. All right, so we're checking for null here. So if it is not null, then we're going to return this comparison. So either this is true or false, otherwise we're going to return false no matter what. Now we can use isImageUpToDate here in our load image function. And again, if we compare the version and it returns as true, we have to return an empty byte array, because if this is empty, then we're going to download from the web. So let me bring that down here, compare versions. So if is not up to date, so if not is image up to date, we pass in the name and the image version. So if it is not up to date, we're going to return this right away. Return bytes, because bytes right now is empty. So we just wanted to return an empty array. Item manager is going to do the rest. All right, that's the simple way of doing it. Awesome, I think we're almost there. We have to check the version JSON and decide if we should download or load from device. So that's basically done, because we're comparing here if the image is up to date, we're returning an empty byte array. But I think something's missing, and we have to save the JSON file, save and load JSON file, because we have to save it in our device for when we close the game and we open the game again and we're trying to download the icons. We have to know what happened to this JSON file. So let's create a path for our JSON file. So string version JSON path, and we're going to set it down here underneath version JSON. I'm going to do version JSON path is equals to base path plus version JSON. So now we can use this path to save it. And for that, we have to make a function here. So public void save version JSON. And we don't need parameters because we're just saving our current version JSON, which we can do by using file, similarly to how we save images. But this time we're going to do write all text instead of bytes. So write all text, we need a path. We have that path, which is version JSON path, and the contents is simply our version JSON. So version JSON dot toString. There you go. So this is going to save our version JSON. Now we also need to load it, and we're just going to load it here on start. So if not file dot exists, no, sorry. If file exists, we are looking for this JSON, right? So if this version JSON file exists, then we're going to load it. And how do we load it? Well, first of all, we create a string based on the file. So let's call it something like JSON string is equals to file dot read all text. And the path to that text is version JSON path. Now we're going to parse that into our version JSON. So version JSON is equals to JSON.parse, and here's JSON string. And there you go. Wait, error? Oh yeah, as JSON object. There you go. So only if the file exists, we're going to load it. Otherwise, this version JSON is just going to be an empty JSON object. Awesome. I can feel it that we are almost there. Let me check if we're not missing anything. So we do that, we compare. And by the way, we have images here. So if this works, we're going to see a text file here that is going to be called version JSON after we run this. So we have our save function. All right, so do you remember on our last episode, we set this debug.log that said downloading icon if we actually had to download it from the web. So we run this the first time and it didn't download anything from the web because it was already in our device. So now, since it is still in our device, but since it shouldn't find the current version to compare it to, it should return an empty array, which is going to trigger the web class to download it, and we should have the message downloading icons. So let's try this one more time now that we have our version checker and everything. Test user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think I typed this wrong. 4, 4, 5, 6. Log in. And there we go. We have downloading icon 3, 2, and 1, but we didn't delete anything from here. We just used our version JSON, which is not here. All right, of course, we didn't. We created the save function here, not here, in image manager. We created the save function for our JSON, but we never actually called it. So we have to call it after we finish this for loop. So save, no, what was that? Main.inst, no, it was just image manager .instance.save version JSON. So that should save the version JSON on our computer. Let's try this one more time. Hey guys, before we continue, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would really help me a lot. Thank you so much. So that should save the version JSON on our computer. Let's try this one more time. So we have our folder here, you can see it's empty. Now we run this, test user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, log in, we download the icons. And now if we check our folder, we have a version JSON. Awesome. So let's open it up with Notepad. And we just have one image with its version. Did we just download icon 3? Guys, I'm sorry, that was my mistake. I'm saving the version JSON after we close the loop, but remember that this download from the web is actually a coroutine that we're not waiting for to finish before we exit the loop. So we are not waiting for this to finish before we exit, so we're saving it even before we download the icons. So one thing we can do to quickly fix this is just move this all the way up here to the action that occurs when we finish downloading each icon. So here, image manager.instance.save version JSON. Now, it can seem a little counterproductive to save the version JSON each time. So we could probably do something like create a queue here in our web class. So we create a queue for our icons that we're downloading, and only when that queue finishes, we save the version JSON. So we only have to save it once after downloading a series of icons. But now for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to save the version JSON each time we finish downloading an icon. So all right, let's do that again. And now this is cool because we can also test what happens if we only have one version with its image there. So probably what I expect we see is that when we run this again, we're going to see downloading icon 2 and downloading icon 1. So let's test this one more time. Test user 123456 log in, and there we go. Downloading icon 2, downloading icon 1. And now if we close this and open it again, version JSON, open with Notepad, there we go. We have 3, 2, and 1, and they're all version 0. All right, now the fun begins, because if we run this again, we're not going to download anything, right? Because things are already in our device and everything is up to date, right? So nothing is downloaded. But what happens when we go back to our database and we update one of these icons? So let's say, for example, one of our artists uploaded a much more cool looking image for our potion. We have to update this. So let's go to SQL. We're going to update item set. We're going to set the image version. So set image version equals to 1, where ID equals 2. All right, this is going to update the version of our potion. So let's do go. And now if we go back to our items table, you will see that our potion has a new version. So it's 1. And it's not the same as the one we have in our JSON. So now if we go back to Unity and test this for one last time, or one more time, test user 123456, log in. Awesome. There you see that the image version of potion is 1, so we're downloading icon 2. Awesome. And again, if we run this now for the last time, it should say that nothing is being downloaded. So 123456 log in, and there we go. Nothing is being downloaded because everything is up to date and inside our device. Awesome, we did it. So now we can update images and let our users download those new images if a new version is detected. Awesome. Guys, this was so much fun. I hope you also found it interesting and fun to do. If you have any questions, please do let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. That really helps me a lot. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the support, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the next video. Take care, guys. Goodbye.